Last night when I was listening to Radiohead's OK Computer, and I found sudden urge to want to revisit Red Rocket 7, which came out that same year as OK Computer, which would be 1997. And what happened was I found myself rereading this book with the music. Normally I do not read with music. But in this case, I've already read this book. Why not, right? And I found it quite engaging to listen to York's vocals and the music, which at times is symbolic, at times it's jarring, at times it's popish, at times it's rock and rollish, at times it's new wave. All these genres, right, which basically Radiohead defies, as do many bands, who don't fit into any kind of genre. And we all know they're just marketing tools for music, for books, and for comics. And those of us who read comics know that Allred, Michael Allred, does not fit into any kind of genre. He draws what he wants, he writes what he wants. When he works on his own projects, he's got complete liberty to do so. And even when he collaborates for the big two, Marvel, and I'm not sure if he's worked for DC. Yeah, he's done covers for DC. Even then, there's a certain element there you can tell that's Mike Allred, a man you can't categorize in any way. And Red Rocket is a project that he did, which I think, in my mind, is a dream project for him, because it incorporates everything that he seems to like: music, films, and comics. And it's basically an homage to the music that he likes. And he has told a story here, which is also the history of rock and roll music, from the 50s all the way till the 90s. Now, mind you, he does have, significant parties, in the history of rock and roll music. I mean, he has Little Richard appears in this book, Elvis, the Beatles, and we can go on and on, right? But we have to understand this is his vision, and these are artists that he likes or the ones that he thinks are important. So there's no point in trying to nitpick. He didn't include this, he didn't include that, because in the end it doesn't really matter. What he did here is he has a story about an alien, and to borrow from Heinlein, a stranger in a strange land who arrives on Earth. And also from The Man Who Fell to Earth, right? David Bowie's film, adapted from a novel. And here you have an alien and 6 of his clones. And they are fleeing from their planet because they're being pursued by these alien creatures, well, fellow alien creatures. And we learn why throughout the story. I'm not going to reveal that. Now, each clone has a special ability. And the 7th clone, Red Rocket 7, known as Red Rocket 7, his ability is music. He has an affinity for music. And when he lands on Earth, he comes across Little Richard. He comes across Elvis when they're starting out. And he travels to Liverpool and he meets the Beatles. And not only does he fall in love with their music, he helps influence a little bit of them, as he does many musicians throughout this storyline. But then Red Rocket 7 at one point does fall in love with a girl from Liverpool. The story is also a history of basically the Cold War, from the 50s all the way to the end of it. And here you have, by this point, the late 60s, 70s in music. And real live people appear throughout the book as Seven and his clones interact. Unlike Mad Men, this is a much more straightforward work. And it can be read with, even if you know nothing about Allred. But if you like music, and if you like science fiction, I think you'll enjoy this book. And here are the 80s and the 90s. I think you'll recognize just about, well, many people here. From Adam Ant to Blondie, Eurythmics, Debbie Harry, With the Cars, Devo, Michael Jackson, Depeche Mode, U2. There's so many, Prince. And I forgot to mention that David Bowie does play an important part in this story, especially the Ziggy Stardust storyline. I think you get an idea of what he probably did, what happened there, right? And then we get to the 90s. That's Kurt Cobain, Courtney Love being Courtney, Bjork, Manson, Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins. And I don't think Radiohead are in here. But then it would have been around the time that they broke through. And the Dandy Warhols, a band very popular in the late 90s, also make an appearance as themselves. And they play an important part in the climax of our story, which again is about an alien and his 6 clones who come to Earth. They have a special mission, and they're being pursued for a reason. It has something to do with human evolution. The next stage in our life, not exactly like 2001 Space Odyssey, but certainly one rich in music, in pop culture, in the Cold War, and what makes comics just such a beautiful, beautiful medium, where you have the talent like Allred does, as a writer and a storyteller, you can make up your own comic. Thank you for viewing.